Okay, so I have a few concrete suggestions for people currently developing tools for thoughts. First of all, if you're getting into this space, it's a little overwhelming. Crypto really is the Wild West. I think the underlying, especially the like computer science layer of this stuff, is getting quite good. In other words, like you look at these platforms like Arweave. I think the fundamentals are good. There's a few things around the mining algorithm that I think will still improve over time, but the way that the data is stored and sort of the theoretical aspect of it, I do not see fundamental barriers to scaling there. So I think the tech is getting quite good at that level. But this is a very fast-moving place. There's a lot of rough edges. You know, you'll find like outdated documentation here or there. And I'm not saying this to put down anyone who's working on Arweave. It's just things are moving really fast. It's hard to keep up on all of it. So yeah, just be aware of that. But I think if you start building on it now, you'll be in a really good place as it matures. Let's see, what else I put in here. Yeah, just not enough documentation, difficult to find libraries. There is really good stuff both on the docs and libraries, but it's just not fully baked. It's a young thing. Like any new technology is like this. It's not the fault of the technology. I'm definitely not saying this to say anything bad about anyone working on this. Like it's just takes a lot of work. Also, if you're new to this space, as far as I know, Arweave, I say as far as I know because it's changing rapidly. Someone might have started up a project yesterday I don't know about. As far as I know, Arweave is the only crypto storage protocol that has these properties. It's the only one that really has permanence. And I think that is fundamental to making this work. So, I mean, don't take my word for it, but if someone is talking about something else being permanent, really look and check and make sure it is permanent. And do the same for Arweave too. I mean, don't just take my word for it. But as far as I know, Arweave is the only thing that is really doing permanence. And that I think is fundamental to some of the stuff working. It doesn't mean there's not value in the other things. But if permanence is the thing you're after, I believe Arweave is the only one doing permanent storage at scale. Okay, so a couple sort of caveats there at the beginning. Okay, I have some really simple and easy to implement recommendations. So if you are a tool for thought and you want to start dipping your toe into this, there is an extremely simple thing you can do that will both provide value to your users, allow you to start interacting with the Arweave space, and should be easy to implement. And that is just implement Arweave URLs. So that's AR:// a transaction ID. And support configurable gateways. So the gateway is the thing that takes that and looks it up in the system. So you don't want to be coupled to a single gateway. Right now, there's one main one that is run by the Arweave team. But in the future, I think there will be more. So you don't want to be coupled together. And the translation for that is just this. Your AR:// transaction ID turns into, I won't read it out, but it's just this URL transaction ID. That is it. That will download the content for a particular transaction. What this will do is it will let people use existing Arweave tools like Rdrive, which is just like I hate saying this because it downplays the significance of it, but it's like imagine a permanent Google Drive or Dropbox. That's what Rdrive is. It will let people who use these existing Arweave tools to upload things permanently and publicly and refer to them using identifiers that resolve to data as opposed to server locations. So you can start getting a flywheel going of people using public data and referring to it using an identifier that resolves to the data. This should be really easy to implement. If you're the first tool to implement this, I guarantee you'll get a lot of love from the Arweave community. It'll sort of let you dip your toes in the water, get your user community exposed to this a little bit, and you'll be able to see sort of, am I too early? What's the feedback here? It seems really low cost and like a low risk thing to do. And maybe what you end up deciding is like, okay, yeah, maybe it is still too early. I'll delay that and just keep watching the space. fine decision. Everyone has to make their own decisions about the timing. Timing in startups is very tricky. Okay, the next thing, if you find this is valuable and you want to keep going, but maybe you're not yet in the place where you want to start posting your content from your tool to Arweave, the next thing you could do is work on URL standards for addressing parts of content on Arweave for embedding and transclusion purposes. So actually, I didn't think about demoing this, but let me see here. So if I remember correctly, yeah, so RConnect, which is a wallet for Arweave, will let you archive pages. So you can archive web pages currently to Arweave. So this is maybe where the use case for this comes in. So you could archive a page. Now it's permanently on Arweave, and you could have a URL standard of some sort, or is it URI? I don't know. I always get those confused. I should clarify that. That refers to part of the page. So now you have permanent content. You can refer to part of the page, and you could have a facility for embedding that, and doing transclusion with it. So again, all you have to do this is come up with a standard for referring to things, and then just use regular HTTP to pull that content off of Arweave through a gateway and display it in your tool. You don't have to do anything cryptographic on your side. The tools for uploading the content, getting the content into Arweave already exist. So again, it's more work than the first thing. This thing, not to do the product manager thing, but like this is less than a day of work if you want to do this. Certainly if you want to do it in the non-programmable way or the non-configurable way with configurable gateways, I hope everyone can do this very quickly. This one takes more work. You probably want to give some thought to the URL standards. You're kind of committing to something going forward. But again, you don't have to upload any content or interact with wallets or doing anything fancy like that to get this part going either. So that's homework for Tools for Thought people if you're interested in getting involved in this. I will argue that if you are building an open tool for thought, this is a competitive advantage. Other tools, I think, if Arweave goes well, will eventually need to adopt Arweave to compete. I don't know if it gives you a moat to adopt Arweave, because in some ways I think it just makes the landscape more competitive. But over time, I think public, permanent, immutable data shifts the game. It really changes the competitive dynamics from, I'm going to try to amass data centrally, and that's going to be my moat, to, I am suddenly not participating in this composable ecosystem of immutable data. So if I am right about this, I think you would do well to get in early so that you can participate in that that data, combinatorial data explosion that may happen on top of Arweave. The last point is just more of an implementation thing. So I see a lot of folks in Tools for Thought space focusing on graph databases, and that is cool. Like, graph databases are excellent tools for building, but I believe at scale, permanence is actually the important thing that enables scalable Tools for Thought. There will be a graph, but it will be based on permanent data referring to other permanent data. And you may use graph databases as an indexing tool, but I think the foundation will just be data. And for the open graphs, the important thing to focus on, certainly you need the indexing to do your interactive tools, etc. But the really important thing to focus on will be the data formats and the URL standards. That's the thing that will win out in the long term, and tools that are built on top of that, I think, will come and go. I think a place to look for data formats is look at the stuff the semantic web folks have done. Not all of it, and some of it is, totally overwrought, but there's a lot of effort that has been put into thinking about how to structure data. And it doesn't mean you have to do the same thing, but I think you would be very foolish to ignore the decades of research that have gone into that space. So look at that. I would just hand wave it like JSON, LD, things like that, to maybe get some ideas to for data formats that you might want for publishing. Again, some people I think have gone a little off the deep end in the semantic web space and talking about ontologies and all that stuff, but maybe not too. I don't know. Maybe I'm being dismissive, but there's a lot of research there, and I'm pretty sure some of it is bound to be good and thought-provoking, even if you don't use it directly. All right, so I will wrap up there. I hope that's been interesting for folks and gives people some inspiration who are building tools for thought. Before I